Hello, welcome to Planet 40k. Today we're going to be looking into the Space Marine Codex and reviewing the Whirlwind, which is one of the old school tanks from the Space Marine faction. Before diving in, we're going to be doing our shout out of the video, which goes to Thomas Boney for the comment relating to the Phobos Librarian. So the Whirlwind tank comes in the heavy support section for 7 power level or 125 points. There will be extras with the Wargear on top of that. So let's move on to the keywords of note. So it's got the smokescreen keyword, as well as being a whirlwind, and of course it's a vehicle. As for the datasheet, it's got a movement of 12 inch, weapon skill 6+, ballistic skill 3+, strength 6, toughness 7, wounds 11, attacks 3, leadership 8, and a 3+ save. So nothing out of the ordinary there. It does have a degrading stat line. As always, the movement, the ballistic skill, and the attacks does degrade when this vehicle gets damaged, and it almost becomes redundant once it gets to 2 wounds or less, because it's only moving 3 inches with a ballistic skill value of a 5+. As for the abilities, Angels of Death, because it's a Space Marine model, so the combat doctrines are going to affect the weapons, and it explodes due to the fact that it's a vehicle, so on a 6, any units within 6 inches will suffer D3 mortal wounds. Onto the Wargear, the Whirlwind is equipped with a Whirlwind Vengeance launcher. So this launcher is 72 inch range, heavy 2d3, strength 7, -1 AP, and the damage is 2. It's got the blast ability, and the target does not need to actually be visible to the tank, so you can shoot through obscuring terrain, and because of that 72 inch you're going to be covering the entirety of the board, so whatever you want to fire at, you can fire at. It is going to cost you 10 points to take this launcher. Now as it's a heavy 2d3, you're on average going to be getting 4 shots. You've got the potential of getting 6 shots, but you've also got the potential of getting just 2 shots. It's a little bit hit and miss there, but it's slightly better than a d6 because you're getting 2d3, so a minimum of 2. Now in the Devastator Doctrine, this will become a -2 AP weapon instead of a -1 AP weapon due to the Combat Doctrine's ability. So this weapon's a little bit of an oddball because Strength 7 is usually geared for light vehicles and standard vehicles that are toughness 6 or toughness 7. The -1 AP is okay and the damage is 2, so it's not doing a lot of work, so you consider it more to be aimed towards infantry models that have got 2 wounds, like Primaris Marines for example. But that strength 7 is a little bit overpowering. It doesn't quite need a strength 7. I mean, even if you're going against Plague Marine models, you only need to be strength 6 at best, because Plague Marines are toughness 5. But even then, the damage wouldn't work with the damage 2 because they're disgustingly resilient anyway. In my opinion, this weapon hasn't got a prime target. It works on all targets, but just not as effective as other units. Now it does have some Wargear options. You can replace the Whirlwind Vengeance launcher with the Whirlwind Castellan launcher. You can also add a Hunter Killer Missile, and you can also add a Storm Bolter. So the Whirlwind Castellan launcher, it's got the same range of 72 inch range, heavy 2d6, so slightly more shots there. It is only strength 6, but that's okay, as we just mentioned, against infantry models you only need strength 6 really. It does however have no AP and 1 damage only. It's got the blast ability, and you don't need visibility for the target. So this one on average you're looking at about 7 shots as opposed to the 4. It's not going to be doing much work against vehicles anymore because it's only strength 6, but against infantry this is probably a better option in my opinion. Now both of those launchers in the first battle round in the Devastator Doctrine are going to get an extra -1 AP, so this one becomes -1 AP in the Devastator Doctrine. Now you can also take a Hunter Killer Missile for 5 points. It's got a 48 inch range, which is slightly less, but it's still pretty good, covering a 4-foot board there, heavy 1, strength 10, -2 AP or -3 in the first battle round, and damage is an unreliable d6. Now you can only use this once per battle, so ideally you should use this in the first battle round to get it to -3 AP. Strength 10 means you're going to be wounding vehicles on a 3+, or if you're going against toughness 5 or less, you'll be wounded on a 2+. Then the Storm Bolter, for another 5 points on top of that, is only a 24 inch range, rapid fire 2, strength 4, no AP, 1 damage. This is a light infantry killer, it's not doing a lot of work really. Now you don't have the Bolter discipline due to the fact that it's not an infantry model, or a biker, or a Terminator. So if you are firing within 12 inch range, you will get 4 shots. But any more than that, between 12 and 24 inch range, it's just the 2 shots. So don't expect too much from this one. Unless you're playing a chapter that synergizes quite well with bolters, for example the Imperial Fist, then it's probably not worth it. As for some stratagems that will work with the Whirlwind, you've got the Armour of Contempt as always due to the fact that it's a vehicle. So any mortal wounds that are taken on a 5+, you can ignore them for a command point. Probably won't be needing this one, especially if this one's going to be at the back end of your deployment because of the range that it has. The next one is the Suppression Fire, which is actually the Whirlwind specific stratagem. It's 1 command point done in the shooting phase. When a Whirlwind is selected to shoot, until the end of the phase, each time a model makes an attack with a blast ability, that's either of the launchers that you take. If a hit is scored for the attack, which it should be because you've got quite a lot of shots there, then until the start of the next turn, the target cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend. and then also cannot be selected to fight until all eligible units in your army have done so. So they're fighting last. So you've got 3 key things there: the Overwatch, the set to defend, and fighting last. You don't need to have all 3 of them to work in the same phase. Let's say for example you want to charge a unit that's got a load of flamer weapons. You use your Whirlwind, fire this, use the Stratagem, turn off the Overwatch, and they're also not fighting until everyone's fought as well. So it can be a very useful stratagem. Obviously works better in certain chapters such as Blood Angels, Black Templars, Space Wolves, any sort of melee based chapter for the Space Marines it's going to be working a lot better for. Then finally it's got the smokescreen stratagem for 1 command point due to the fact that it's got the smokescreen keyword. So you can pop this and it'll be a -1 to hit penalty if it is targeted by an enemy unit. As for some chapter synergy, if you're a Dark Angels player, you remaining stationary, you're going to get a +1 to your hit roll with the Grim Resolve chapter tactics. So hitting on 2s with your launchers, not too bad. Then White Scars have got the Hunter's Fusillade stratagem to turn the heavy weapons to assault weapons. So if you want to advance with this thing, you can still do so. It'll be a -1 to hit penalty for firing your weapons, but you'll be moving that 12-inch plus the advance roll. Then Imperial Fist, you can remove the light cover save. Now the weapons with this are only -1 AP, so you don't really want to give them a cover save on top of that because they're probably a 2 or 3 plus armor save, so you don't really want to have enemy units having light cover. And also if you do take that Storm Bolter as mentioned earlier, you're going to get more shots and rolls of a 6 to hit. However, with only 2 shots or possibly 4 when you're rapid firing, the odds are not in your favour. Iron Hands have the Wrathful Machine Spirit stratagem to reroll all the hit rolls, and they get double the wounds for the data characteristics, so you're not going to get bracketed so easily when you're taking damage. They've got a 6+4 no pain save. Then on top of that they can reroll a hit roll of a 1 in the Devastator Doctrine, so in turn 1, which ties in quite nicely if you're taking the Hunter Killer Missile in particular, because that's the round you should be firing it at. Then finally the Machine Empathy. So with the Technomancer you can be healing D3 wounds to your tank, and you can do it twice. So if the Whirlwind is on its last legs, your Tech Marine can be using that ability. As for Ultramarines, with Codex Discipline they can fall back and shoot, so if this thing gets caught in combat, because it's got a blast ability with its main weapon, it's not going to be able to fire it, so if you're able to fall back and then shoot, even though it's a -1 to hit penalty, it's still better than nothing. Salamanders get a reroll to the wound roll, and a -1 AP becomes no AP when targeted. It's kind of standard, but they've also got the Born Protectors to fire Overwatch to aid a nearby unit if they're being charged. So the Whirlwind doesn't actually have to be charged in order to fire that Overwatch there. Raven Guard have the Shadow Masters for the light cover save if they're more than 18 inches away, and this tank definitely should be more than 18 inches away due to the fact that it's got a 72-inch range weapon, so this should be at the back of the board right in the corner, covering the entire board, doesn't need visibility, hidden behind terrain as well, and it's going to have the light cover save, preferably on a home objective. Then the Death Watch with the mission tactics to mix up the doctrines if you want the heavy doctrine in the 2nd turn or 3rd turn perhaps, and you get to reroll 1s to wound versus set battlefield roll. Kind of standard stuff there. As for unit synergy, due to the fact that it's a vehicle, we always bring in the Tech Marine for the 2 abilities, Blessing of the Omnisire to regain D3 lost wounds at the start of the turn, and then Awaken the Machine Spirits to add a +1 to the hit rolls if within 3 inches of your Tech Marine. Now if you had a Librarian or another Psyker, they can take the Psychic Fortress ability, which will grant a 5+ invulnerable save if it's within 6 inches of the Psyker. Now due to the fact that it's not got an in-1 save at all, this could be really handy, especially if you're castling up at the back. So quite a quick review here, so let's get onto the summary, starting with the good. Doesn't need line of sight with its main weapon, which is going to be really good, because this thing can be hidden out of sight, virtually picking its targets no matter where they are on the board, no matter how they're hidden, you'll still be able to fire, due to the fact that it's got a 72-inch range weapon. It can be kitted out for anti-infantry or anti-horde, but either of the weapons are going to do pretty well against standard infantry models. Then it's got the smokescreen keyword for the extra stratagem usage for the -1 to hit penalty for opponents. On to the bad, it's not core, so it's quite difficult to buff unless you're using that Tech Marine or the Librarian for example, and it's got no in-1 save, it's got degrading stat line, and it's got low AP and low damage output on the weapons in particular, so again it's more geared towards infantry models as opposed to vehicles and monsters. Which then brings me on to the final point, there's just better options in the codex for the damage output against infantry models. The Redemptor Dreadnought always comes to mind, the ATV Invader Bites with the Onslaught Gatling Cannons for example. There's plenty other options that are just better for you within the codex. So on to the rating today, I'm going to be giving the Whirlwind a Planet 40k rating of 2 stars. So guys, that's the review today. Remember to drop a like, comment below on what you would give this Whirlwind tank, and if you've got any combos, put them down below as well. We don't go through every single detail in every single chapter, so some of you like to add in your own comments, say the kind of combinations that you do with your chapter, so put that below, and the best comment will be shouted out in the next Space Marine video. So guys, thank you all for watching, and as always, I will see you next time.